How should Big 12 fans actually feel about Texas losing out of the College Football Playoff? This is Locked On Big 12.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Great. You should feel absolutely freaking great. Welcome into Locked On Big 12. I'm Drake Toll from ESPN Central Texas. Thank you for making Locked On Big 12 your first listen every single day. And if you're a Texas fan, before you turn this thing off, hear me out a little bit. You're the team that left. And for everybody else, we already got your money. We already got your $6 million. You get going to the College Football Playoff and the added bonuses that go to your conference. And guess what? Texas was wearing a Big 12 patch when they played against Washington in the College Football Playoff, and Texas lost. And we have no reason, the rest of us, a TCU fan, a Texas Tech fan, anybody else, to sit back and say, I really wish we could have seen Texas win. If you were, let me give you this scenario. Texas is in the Big 12, and one day Oklahoma State and Oklahoma and Baylor and TCU decide to pair together and leave the Big 12 and leave this thing maybe dying, maybe falling apart. Who knows what's going to happen, what the future is. I don't think Texas fans would root for those teams that left the league. And I don't think that other teams should have to root for Texas. Instead, we'll take your money and see you later. And the best case scenario was that Texas loses to Washington, especially in a game where there was never a point where I felt like Washington should have lost. They controlled the football game. How should Big 12 fans feel about Texas' loss? It's a good day, right? We could wake up and say, from a conference strength standpoint, we didn't need Texas to win. There was never if Texas wins, that bodes well for the Big 12. That makes the Big 12 look good. We should all be rooting for Texas. If you felt that way, you are maniacal. You need to rethink how you view college football, because guess what? At the end, can I be honest with you? Can I say something controversial? Can I say something that is almost antithetical to the way that I have talked to you for the last 6 months? The money doesn't matter to us. I'm never going to see Texas playoff money. Had Texas gone to the national championship and won it, I was never going to see the money that the Big 12 got kicked to them because of Texas victory. I'm never going to see the cash that comes to the league because of another team's success, whether it's Texas or anybody else. So why does it matter? You're not going to see it either. It's not going to be a tangible thing. The ticket prices aren't going to go down at BYU games because Texas won the national championship and the Big 12 got some money. I know that we always scream about money, and that's one of the things that we point out for how conferences are strong. But guess what? At the end of the day, that money doesn't really mean a lot to you or I, especially when the Big 12 is not in danger of falling apart. Now, if I'm at Wake Forest, now I'm having a conversation about my endowment, especially when a Florida State leaves, because now I'm thinking about how can my money stack up with the rest of college football. In the Big 12, we are safe enough, unlike the ACC, that we don't really need to care about the money. And honestly, Texas going to the SEC and making $55 million a year from their TV deal is fine. Those fans aren't going to see the money either. They're going to get beat. That's what they're going to see, losses. They decided, we want some more money, and they're going to take losses instead. How should Big 12 fans feel about the Texas loss? I think we should all be asking the Longhorns a question. I think there's one pressing question that a friend of mine named James Draws asks a lot of teams after they lose ball games. Now, I need you to know, before we have James Draws on the show right here, this is loud. This is eccentric, and it's like 1 minute and 15 seconds, which feels absurdly long, and not everything that is said is exactly understandable, but I need you to bear with me and spend this 1 minute and 15 seconds, eyes closed, basking in the beauty that is this question that I have for Texas football.
They created some of their own problems.
Texas! What happened?
That's so good.
How to lose to Washington? Let's go, Texas! Guess what? Horns down! Horns down! See ya! One day killer! What happened? Texas! It was to Washington! Thanks! Happens! See ya!
See ya.
What? Thank you,
Thank you, Lord.
What happened? Now, here's your future now!
Yes.
What happened? See ya! What happened? No, it is now!
He's still gonna love it.
Washington area God is now here. Get ready. Here's your future now. Get ready. What happened?
Oh, I love the fervor from James Draws on this What Happened video. And if you haven't seen these, you're missing out. They're beautiful on TikTok. He asks every team that loses what happened. And James has some really passionate thoughts about Texas' loss to Washington and how there's a new era in college football. And Washington is your father. That's how we should feel about Texas losing to Washington. This is how we should feel about Texas losing.
Texas!
Oh, it's so good.
What happened?
What happened, Texas? That's the joy that we can. And look, is it petty? Yeah, a little bit, right? Like I'm to sit back and bask in the glory of a team that lost, that has proven people wrong. And I know that Quinn Ewers got to the podium last night. I was like, we proved everybody wrong. But no, you were picked first in the Big 12 preseason. A lot of people thought you'd go to the College Football Playoff. And a lot of ESPN analysts would say that Texas was going to be in the College Football Playoff. But we have all been screaming that Texas is not back. And many people will still scream that. So I'll give you your roses in that way. Texas made the College Football Playoff. I can't take that away from you. But what I can say is what happened when you got to the College Football Playoff. You didn't do what this little team did. Up in Fort Worth, there's only one team from the state of Texas that's gone to the College Football Playoff and won a game. One team from the Big 12 that's done that, and it's the TCU Horned Frogs. Do you think that TCU is better than Texas? Well, I mean, based on that metric, the answer is yes. Based on College Football Playoff wins, postseason success, the answer is yes. And TCU has been beating Texas a lot. This squad, Texas that is, has been not a bottom dweller, but kind of a joke in the Big 12 for a while now. We are kicking out. No, maybe we're not. They're leaving. I'll give you that. They're leaving as a team that over the last 13 years did not matter. And the best case scenario of the worst case scenario, the worst case being they win the Big 12 championship, especially the College Football Playoff, go to the College Football Playoff. The best case of that would be they lose in the College Football Playoff. And maybe the best case in them losing in the College Football Playoff is doing it in a way that could not be more painful. They felt the feeling of victory, the feeling of a beautiful, great comeback at the end of the game, and they didn't get it. They was swept right up from underneath them. And now, who is your father? It is Washington. James Draws lands the plane here. What happened to Texas? And I think we could all come together and understand it is petty to put a team down when they did go to the College Football Playoff and one of the last four teams standing in this sport. But I just don't care. I can be petty. It is Locked On Big 12. You are likely a fan listening of another Big 12 team. Who gives a rip what happens to Texas? And we can all root for other teams to lose. Look, and can I give you this too? Just because I'm the host of Locked On Big 12 doesn't mean I am not a sports fan, a normal sports fan. I am not a robot. I do not get paid to root for every Big 12 team to win every game, namely Texas and Oklahoma. Everybody else, I'm pretty cool with. But I don't have to sit here, even while their patch still says Big 12, and give you a rosy scenario for either of those schools. They don't play for us anymore. We will take your money. We will see you later. And if you lose all your games, that's okay. Because if you were a fan, if you're a Texas fan who graduated from Texas State or Tarleton, think for 1 second about how you would feel about Texas if you were a TCU fan. You probably wouldn't like them very much, right? Because they left the conference. Well, I don't have to pretend that I like you. I give you're good. You went to the College Football Playoff and you lost, and we should all feel great about that. Coming up, Steve Sarkisian actually lost this game. Let's break it down a little bit. I'm going to make the case for Texas fans. You can rest easy. This wasn't exactly on your team as much as it was your coach here on Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. What do you know? Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is my place for passive income. I sit, I bet, I win. I get money at FanDuel.com/locked on. One of my favorite things to do is to win money on sports. Last night, Baylor opened its new big arena. It's 7,500 people. It's small, but it's intimate and it's great. It was a spectacular time, and I got to go bet Baylor minus 16.5 against Cornell. at FanDuel. New customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 money line bet. Place a $5 bet, and if it hits, you get $150 in bonus bets. That is it. The app is so easy to use, and there are so many different ways to bet, like live same-game parlays. Find best bets in the new Explore tab and make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, the best way to find popular parlays and more. Just go check it out. Download the app. The app is convenient. It's easy. It's great to use. FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NFL. I think Steve Sarkisian lost this game for Texas. I don't believe that the head coach of the Longhorns put the team in a position to win. Now, as long as they have the Big 12 patch on the jersey, I can still talk about their games and break them down as a Big 12 team. They have left us, and I do not believe that Texas is a part of the Big 12 right now. I don't consider them to be a team that I am rooting for because of their Big 12 affiliation. But I can tell you, I'm happy to talk about their loss. And I'm happy to tell you that this was Steve Sarkisian, who, by the way, you want a fun fact? This is when you go to work and your buddy's like, hey, you watch that Texas game and you need one fun fact to tell him. You say, yeah, I did. And Steve Sarkisian has one win against top 10 teams while at Texas. Charlie Strong had two. That's right, Charlie Strong. And you know what? I think Steve Sarkisian's story is great. I think Steve Sarkisian has a build-up in his career that is going to be a wonderful documentary one day. But documentaries don't win you football games, especially against Washington, who he is 0-4 against. Steve Sarkisian lost this game because he did not put his team in the right position. Washington played Texas the way Texas played Alabama. There was never a point where Washington did not control this game. Even late, where it looked like Texas was going to win, they had just had a drive that stalled because Steve Sarkisian couldn't put it together when they got to the red zone. And then they said, watch, we'll do it again. Before there was never a point where I thought, Texas should stop running the ball. This is not working out very well for them. And that's maybe the biggest part. Before we even get to the ineptitude at the very end of this ball game, I just want to give you that Texas ran the football pretty damn well and then just didn't do it anymore. They threw the ball 43 times. They ran the ball 28 times. When they ran the ball, it was 6.4 yards per carry. As you know, 3 yards per play gets you a first down. You win the football game. It's how Air Force does it every game. 28 carries, 180 yards, and 3 touchdowns on the ground. You would think that team would keep running the ball. Now, Washington's secondary is not elite. So I understand why Texas would want to throw the ball with Quinn Ewers, but also it's Quinn Ewers. And I need Steve Sarkisian to understand something. Quinn Ewers is not an elite quarterback. There are 5 to 10 elite quarterbacks in college football, and Quinn Ewers is not one of those. 24 for 43, maybe even 15, and he's still not one of those. Still wasn't in the Heisman conversation. Of his 24 completions, he threw for 318 yards, 7.4 yards per pass. Now, look, I want to give you those two numbers. 7.4 yards per pass per completion is more than 6.4 yards per carry. But think about when you throw the ball, it's going deeper downfield. So 6.4 yards per carry is pretty darn impressive, and 24 for 43 is not. And then at the end of the game, where you just need Quinn Ewers to throw the ball at the pylon and Texas wins the game, he doesn't. Steve Sarkisian put too much pressure on Quinn Ewers, who fell apart, who wasn't good, who wasn't confident in the biggest moment. Who didn't make the play in the big? If he was confident in this, you see many times Ewers just chunked the ball out of bounds. I'm just going to throw it up high, throw it out of bounds, and whatever. Not only that, there came a point in this game where they flashed the camera to Matthew McConaughey, who's sitting on the side. Matthew McConaughey's on the sideline, not just like in the end zone, hanging out with the rest of his buddies. He's with 3 players near the bench. What are you doing not running the football? What are you doing with late game clock management? Why is Matthew McConaughey on the sideline talking to players in the middle of the game and giving them pep talks? And they should be talking to coaches or staff or other players or literally anybody who is not the actor Matthew McConaughey. At what point do you address how bad the secondary is? At what point do you admit to yourself who Quinn Ewers is and decide to just run the football with multiple good running backs? At what point do you stop? At what point do you change something with the secondary? What is it? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. Let's just do, our secondary will figure it out at some point. Penix was just nails. His receivers were nails, and the secondary was nowhere to be seen. And the only way that Texas, with such a bad secondary, could stop Washington was getting pressure, putting pressure on Michael Penix Jr. And they couldn't even do that with their world-class NFL caliber defensive line. To me, you saw so many creative stunts from the Michigan defense against Alabama if you watched that game. To me, felt like Washington established the line of scrimmage, which I did not expect. And Texas, in all, was unprepared. There should not have been a scenario in this game where Washington controlled the game or did not feel, or there shouldn't have been a time where Washington didn't feel like, you know what, Texas could legitimately get up by double digits. I pictured in my head that this game would be, Texas is up by 3 or 7 at halftime, and they get the ball, and you just know that at some point they're going to break this one open and get up by 17, and Washington's going to have to fight back, and they won't be able to fight back because the Texas defense is too good up front. And there was never a point where I was ready for UT to get out way ahead, where I felt like, all right, shoot. They've got control. They got the bull by the horns. No, it reminded me a lot of the Alabama game where Alabama was playing from behind and Alabama was trying to play catch up. That's what this was. Except in this one, Texas was Alabama, Washington was Texas, and overall, Washington actually dominated the game, and if not for an injury there late, there wouldn't have been a real chance for Texas to come back. Kalen DeBoer outcoached Steve Sarkisian. I didn't think I'd have to say that sentence this year, last year, ever in my life. But it's true. Steve Sarkisian lost this game for Texas. They were unprepared, and now, still, he trails Charlie Strong for most top 10 wins while at Texas. Where is Charlie Strong, by the way? I don't know. That's how bad that stat is. Here on Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's show is brought to you by LinkedIn Talent Solutions. LinkedIn Talent Solutions is where I go to hire interns. I have been off for holiday, dude. I feel bad. This is bad. This is a bad story. I've been off for holiday, and I've gotten a couple of emails from people, drake.c.toll@gmail.com, about jobs, a possibility of interning with me, and I would love for you to do that. I need one of those. I can send you the LinkedIn link because I do the LinkedIn thing. If you just send me an email again, I wiped it for the new year. As we start the new year, I can tell you the LinkedIn Jobs is the place to go to make a hire fast and free. It's not just another job board. They have billion people who use this thing. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn number one in delivering quality hires versus the leading competitors. They know small businesses are wearing so many hats that they want to help you and make the process quick, easy, intuitive. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege, linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Keep in mind terms and conditions. They do apply. Did you know the UCF Knights are sneaky good at the whole game of football? By sneaky, I mean they're not really hiding it from you how much better they're getting, especially after KJ Jefferson, the Arkansas quarterback, the greatest Arkansas quarterback in history, based on statistics, has committed to go to Orlando. I want to do some spotlights on individual teams that have been playing well or doing well in the offseason when it comes to football, playing the offseason well. And obviously Colorado, who's number one in the country in the transfer portal, who's been very, very good in the transfer portal. Obviously, TCU, who has been wildly dominant in the transfer portal, unexpectedly dominant in the transfer portal. Arizona State, who's 8th in the country in the transfer portal. Texas Tech is 7th right now. UCF is 36th. So I'll give it to you. I'm not talking about the most elite team in the portal in the Big 12, but I am talking about a team that's been recruiting at a very high rate. I know Texas Tech jumped them, but UCF's 2024 class was how you say good, and the transfers coming in are only making them better. They are not one of the schools that needed to reload out of the portal. They had some positive attrition coming out, and now with KJ Jefferson in, if I'm the rest of the Big 12, I'm actually scared of. I am. I'm not actually scared of this. I'm non-surprisingly scared of KJ Jefferson being in this conference and being at UCF. Three of the top receivers in the Big 12 this year in yardage played for UCF, and they're coming back. This is a very good football program, and I don't know if we're giving them enough due. They were the only team, and I know they lost to Georgia Tech. That was bad. That was one of the saddest moments of bowl season this year. But I'm not sure if it's going to be representative of the strength of UCF going into next season. They have pieces coming back that will make them elite in this league within the next 2 years. Because it's not just like, they were the best of the new teams this year. They can maybe keep building. No, they've done it with recruiting prowess. They have shown that they can utilize the transfer portal to be really good and that they can recruit high schoolers. Kobe Hudson, Jaden Baker. These two guys are two of the best receivers in the Big 12, and it was a two-headed monster receiver this year for UCF. Now you give them KJ Jefferson, the guy who lit it up at Arkansas, and not only do you give him KJ Jefferson, you give KJ Jefferson to Gus Malzahn, an Arkansas guy himself, who is still, in my opinion, an offensive guru. I don't know about genius, but a guru who made John Rice Plumlee so good, who made Timmy McClain so good. Both of those guys, even when John Rice Plumlee was out, Timmy McClain did a more than serviceable job as the backup quarterback. Both of those guys getting to do it with their arms and their legs. That's what KJ Jefferson's going to be, but I think even better. He's got a shot to be the best, to have the best single season in UCF history as a quarterback. And that is saying a lot when you consider guys like Dylan Gabriel who lit it up there. KJ Jefferson could be even better because of how big, strong, and fearless he plays football. For a team that has a top 35 class in 2024, both in the high school ranks and the transfer ranks, UCF is becoming scary. They got 3 4-stars, which in the Big 12 is going to do you pretty well. And they have Gus Malzahn, who, again, I don't think we can devalue as a head coach yet. He is still pretty darn sharp. And they were compared to the other new squads, they were ahead of schedule this year. Look, I think Arizona next year is going to be good. I think Utah is going to be good. I think Texas Tech's going to be good. Kansas State obviously is going to find a way to put it together. Avery Johnson's scary. But UCF's got a real chance, if their trajectory continues at this rate, to be at the top of the Big 12, in 2 years. I don't know. When I look at the trajectory of other teams in this conference, their ascension being in Florida, having the recruiting base in Florida feels rapid. I think they have a step up on BYU.